In 2004, LEGO introduced kind of an interesting change up to the Knights and Castle theme that they had often been doing in the form of Knight's Kingdom, which not only included all of these different minifigure style playsets that we had seen in previous years, but also included builds for full-size figures and even a trading card game, which was pretty cool. Granted, I'd never played it. This video isn't necessarily about Knight's Kingdom, but specifically about one piece, because it's an interesting piece. Someone brought it up on the Discord yesterday, wondering exactly where it had come from, and it is this piece right here. So why make a video about this piece? Well, it's a little more interesting than it looks at first glance. This right here is an armor piece, a fairing piece, whatever you want to call it, a panel, and it sticks to the side of these models, specifically into the arms, legs, the limbs. And it does so using these double pins. It's a really strange piece because there aren't that many pieces that LEGO has produced with the pins included in it for decoration purposes. There are some, not as many as you'd think. But interestingly, as crazy as this piece looks as though it should be about 2 modules long. It's not, though. It actually has some pretty weird dimensions, and that's why I wanted to bring this up, because there's an interesting use that I found for this, even though it's a piece that honestly doesn't get used much because of these dimensions. So it is roughly about 2.4 modules long, meaning that if you wanted to use it with something like this, it just doesn't work. You can push it into the holes part way, but it is going to end up touching and colliding with that top there. It doesn't matter which set of holes you put it in, other than maybe just putting it in the center here, which it doesn't really have friction on those pins, so you're not going to get a lot out of that. It's an interesting piece, at the very least. But one thing that I really find fascinating about it is because of these dimensions, you can do some pretty interesting things. Earlier last year, I decided I wanted to make a Rahi that was very different from anything that I had built before because it was going to be capable of flight, sort of. If you guys grew up in the 90s like I did, then you know of these toys where you used to hold a ripcord essentially and a wand in your hand, and then the toy would sit on top and you'd pull the ripcord and the toy would go flying away. That is essentially what I built with this right here. At first glance, it might just look like a blob, but there is a ripcord that goes in there and a Ratuka spinner. It relies on the spin of that Ratuka, but that's a little strange because Ratuka are not standard in their dimensions either. I was going to say definition. That's not the right word. But yeah, those armor pieces are actually on the sides here, and they are the perfect size to hold that Ratuka down. In fact, it does so without friction, so you're not going to have any issues when you actually go to pull this and have it spin. And as you can see up here, there's a CV joint that runs through this, which is why the build is the size that it is. And what's special about a CV joint, if you're not familiar with it, is the fact that it can convert rotation without converting the friction involved with holding something like an axle, which I find quite fascinating. There aren't that many pieces designed to do this. Because of that, that means that this axle can slip in and out freely, but will still pick up the rotation. So if I wanted to launch something like this here, I can just pull. Now, I don't want to pull too fast because I really don't want to lose this. It's the only silver one of these I have. But let's do it one more. Why not, right? Because, you know, I got you on video. Why am I going to just not do it? So it's right in front of me here, thankfully. It didn't go that far from me. But yeah, so it's a really fun piece that essentially makes this entire build possible. LEGO has made other ripcord and disc type items in their past, even, you know, recently with, I believe Ninjago has had some stuff with that. There's been a little helicopter set with something like it as well. But many of those are often much larger, much bulkier pieces. And because of that, the launch pad for something like that would be much worse, let's just say. And you know, LEGO has only a handful of different types of ripcords too, so it's really all about trying to balance the ripcord, being able to go in and out freely, easily, and also just working this function, right? So it's a really interesting piece, and I honestly quite love it. It does come in a handful of different colors, including mata green here, black as well. Those are probably my personal favorite colors, just because we don't actually have a lot of armor pieces specifically for Bionicle. Yeah, that hair is never gonna, never gonna stay in place. It's fine. Um, but yeah, so we don't have a lot in the way of Bionicle itself in terms of green pieces. A lot of people complain about like Bionicle getting rid of brown in 2006, but honestly, they also got rid of old green back in 2003. We never saw it again in the series. I guess you could make the argument like that the eyes from one of the Vaki sets is that color, sort of, and fair enough, I guess. But that's it, and so it's really unfortunate to see that. But there are a handful of really interesting sets that do give us at least some support with that green coloration. The NHL hockey Technic sets, for example, had an armor piece on them that were exclusive to those sets, but they are sized appropriately to actually fit in Nika torsos. The spacing of the holes on both sides are identical to that. So you can utilize those pieces, and those come in that standard green color as well as many other colors too. So they're really fun pieces, and the whole point of this video is to essentially implore you to kind of get out there and experiment, especially with series, themes, waves, and sets from the early to mid 2000s. Not just because many of these sets will incorporate Bionicle pieces in fun and new ways, including some that are exclusive, like a black or a lime green galley hook, but also it just allows you to sort of try something that's new, that's different, that feels like it should belong right at home with Bionicle, like a piece like this, but you never see it in Bionicle because of maybe strange dimensions or just the time frame of that piece. It wasn't utilized for long enough. This piece does show up on a handful of other sets as well, including some system sets like a plane apparently, and it's a really fascinating piece. It is made with ABS plastic as well, so it's hard plastic, but it's surprisingly easy to remove when it's necessary, so thankfully it doesn't get stuck in pieces too bad. But yeah, that's really everything I wanted to go ahead and say about this. So this was it's a little wasp build that I made a while ago. I don't have it built anymore, unfortunately, but I really honestly quite loved it, and I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. They got some stuff going on outside, so I'm going to go ahead and end this one here. But if you guys do want to join in on the conversation, you can, of course, check out the comments and make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Of course, as always, you can also check out the Discord, Instagram, and Patreon if you want to support the channel and get some perks or join in conversations about pieces like this. Those will all be down in the description below. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so I only got one of these. All right, so yeah, take care.